Well, I have bad news for anybody that was holding out hope for Washington State and Oregon State ever becoming a part of the Big 12, and it comes from the most respected source with Pac-12 news, and that is Jon Wilner. Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz. Here on this channel, we talk college football, college basketball, conference realignment, all from a Big 12 angle. Please consider subscribing if you have not. Live shows Wednesdays and Sundays, they are a blast. Make sure that you join up to get involved with those. Leave a comment underneath the video, like the video, and you can support the channel on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4. I know there had been some talk for a while throughout the rumor mill, back closer to like August, September, when the major move happened with everybody bailing on the Pac-12, about Oregon State and Washington State and any potential of them joining the Big 12. I can understand why some did like the idea. I certainly would like the idea just from the pure standpoint of having Oregon State and Washington State find a home. I never thought that it made a lot of sense for the Big 12, but I do feel terribly for Oregon State and Washington State. And as most of you know, as a Kansas State guy myself, I understand the position that they are in very well. So I feel terribly for them. But Jon Wilner, who is as plugged in as anybody to West Coast football, particularly the Pac-12, or the artist formerly known as the Pac-12, put a lot of water on any flame that was there about Oregon State and Washington State ever getting to the Big 12 in his latest mailbag. And frankly, we've been skimping a little bit on the Pac-12 coverage here, Pac-2 coverage here on the channel lately. So I wanted to give you a little dive deep into the questions that Jon Wilner was answering here, because I think there was a lot of really good insight that came along with it. So the question came into him: how much do Oregon State and Washington State need from the Pac-12's remaining funds to buy their way into the Big 12, the same way Cal, Stanford, and SMU bought their way into the ACC? So the question there basically is, how much of this quote-unquote war chest that the Pac-12, which the Pac-2 rather, did win the first portion of this lawsuit battle, this court battle, to get control of that money, how much of it would it take for them to say, hey, we don't need TV revenue for the first X amount of years, we'll come into the Big 12 for free, so therefore we make it work for everybody? Because that's essentially it's definitely what SMU did. To a lesser extent, it's what Cal and Stanford did to get into the ACC. But Jon Wilner very quickly poured cold water on that and said there is no amount, because the Big 12 is finished expanding, and anyone who reports otherwise is either misinformed or just making stuff up. Could things change much later in the decade or in the early 2030s? Sure. The sport is due for a massive structural shakeup when the next round of media rights negotiations commence. But for now, all paths into the Power 4 leagues are blocked for the Beavers and Cougars at any price. The Big 12 is content and aligned with 16 teams, as are its media partners. And I think the last piece of that is as important as anything, as are its media partners. They're controlling all of this. We know it's Fox, it's ESPN. If they don't want it, if they don't want Oregon State and Washington State, it ain't going to happen. That's just the way it is right now. So even if the Big 12 were really gung-ho about it, you'd have to convince the TV networks about it, and it looks like that is not going to be the case. Now, I feel very badly for Oregon State and Wazoo, because again, they deserve a home. It's a crappy situation that they are in, but unfortunately that home is not going to be the Big 12. Now, another question that came to Wilner was, if the Pac-2 indeed retains control after an appeal, okay, so they won, they got the first ruling from a judge, but it is going to be appealed. So if the Pac-2 indeed retains control after an appeal, what is the most realistic outlook for the 2023-24 media rights revenue shares? Scenario here, the Pac-2 for now is in control of the $400+ million that is supposed to be distributed throughout the entire league. Now, they are supposed to be fair, according to the judge, with it, which means they can't hoard it all. They will have to pay out some of it to the schools that are departing, but yet are still in the league this year. Here's what Wilner said. ESPN, Fox, and the Pac-12 network's distribution partners are under contract through the spring. As long as the Pac-12 delivers the requisite inventory, the money will flow regardless of the lawsuit. How much? The revenue figure for the current competition year cited in legal filings is $420 million, which is $35 million per campus if split equally. Even if they win the legal fight, Washington State and Oregon State won't take all of it. That would land them right back in court. Thus, the reference about they have to be fair with it, according to the judge. We believe a settlement, this is Wilner saying, we believe a settlement is the best resolution, with the 10 departing schools walking away with $25 million or so, and the 2 remaining schools using the extra revenue and the long-term assets to fund operations and set their schedules for 2024-25. So if $35 million is how it would be split equally, it looks like the departing schools will take, if this goes according to Wilner's plan, like a $10 million haircut on their way out the door, which, you know, to me, fair is fair. I get that they were here for this year, but they are screwing Washington State and Oregon State. That seems fair to give them a little bit of extra money, in my book anyway, to help make themselves whole as long as they possibly can. And we know from other reporting from Jon Wilner here this past week, well, there had been some speculation of like, would they take some of that money and use it for expensive buyouts for Mountain West schools to come into a new revamped Pac-12? That is not going to be the route that they go. Jon Wilner also poured cold water on any thought about that. Now, there's been a lot of talk about a scheduling alliance now, which Oregon State and Washington State are going to have to utilize in all likelihood next year, as they are going to operate once again in all likelihood as a two-team conference, utilizing an NCAA loophole that will allow you some grace for 2 years to do that. So Jon Wilner got this question: should the Mountain West have any trepidation about the scheduling alliance with Oregon State and Washington State, knowing that the Pac-2 might try to rebuild the conference with some of the Mountain West's best schools? It's a good question here. If you're going to have a scheduling alliance, is this just the entryway to get everybody in, and then you're going to snatch the best out of the Mountain West and crumble that conference? Wilner says, I'm sure some Mountain West schools are worried about downstream poaching by the Pac-2 that would grab the best football programs in the Mountain West, with others getting left behind. And for that reason, any schedule alliance likely will feature contractual protections for Utah State, San Jose State, Nevada, New Mexico, etc. So those would be the less desirable schools out of the Mountain West here: Utah State, San Jose State, Nevada, New Mexico, etc. He says for the top-tier Mountain West schools, a scheduled partnership with the Pac-2 seems like an easy call. Those are quality home games for Fresno State, Boise State, and San Diego State, as long as the financial terms are acceptable. The Cougars and the Beavers must make the deal worthwhile after all. And yes, this scheduling alliance makes a ton of sense, I think, for both sides. It's great for schools like San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State to get guaranteed games against Washington State and Oregon State, who, by the way, are very, very solid football programs right now. And considering the scenario and the situation that the two schools are in, Wazoo and Oregon State, to be able to get like at least strong G5 games on the schedule combined with your non-con, and it looks like combined with your rivalry games, that's the best way to build at least a somewhat competitive schedule in a short-term pinch when you're really going to have to figure things out on the fly. Final question that I'll address here is about those rivalries. Is there any mood to continue state rivalries in the Pacific Northwest? So Washington State, Oregon State. It would be very easy to do if Oregon and Washington each drop a cupcake to help fill the OSU and WSU schedules, or are feelings too raw? Now, this actually surprised me a little bit. I thought the feelings might be too raw, but Wilner says feelings are raw for sure, but cooler heads are working to continue the two in-state rivalries. In fact, the hotline has been told the Oregon schools and Washington schools are close to getting deals done, and that's in quotes, close to getting deals done. In addition to the history, the matchups generate quality TV ratings and have value to media companies. I can't state conclusively that the Apple Cup and the game formerly known as the Civil War will be played next season, but the hotline is 95% certain you'll see the rivalries continue without interruption. As for the dates, circle September 14th, 2024. So this would be an early season matchup, it sounds like, next year with the Apple Cup and Civil War, September 14th, 2024. Washington has an opening on its schedule to play WSU, and Oregon is reportedly attempting to create one in order to face Oregon State. So they're doing work to try and get that done and make it happen in early September. It is a bit of a bummer that wouldn't happen in the last week of the season, like rivalry week. Next year is going to be a very, very weird season of college football. Watch the last live show here on the channel if you want a little bit more on that. But considering the situation we're in, that is much, much better than the alternative of the game not being played. So happy to see that those games may actually happen. I don't know if you're happy or not, but you will not see Oregon State or Washington State in the Big 12 anytime soon. Appreciate Jon Wilner's reporting as always. You can check out a link to Jon Wilner's work in the body here of the description if you want any further reading on that. I definitely highly recommend it if you're interested in the Pac-12. But again, subscribe to the channel. Wednesday and Sunday live shows, they are great. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to support the channel. I would really appreciate if you like the video or leave a comment. Agree, disagree, love me, hate me, whatever it might be in the comments. That is all very welcome. I appreciate all of you for being here. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.